Serotonin, also called 5-hydroxytryptamine, is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. There are 100 different neurotransmitters that range in their excitatory and their inhibitory effects. Serotonin is inhibitory. It is used to modulate sleep, emotion, appetite, and body temperature.
So now we're going to talk about the synthesis of serotonin and how we get serotonin in the first place. So firstly, an amino acid known as tryptophan is converted into 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is also commonly referred to as 5-HTP. And then this is converted to serotonin, 5-HT. So now let's talk about the secretion of serotonin. Now firstly, an action potential arrives and it reaches the axon terminal and depolarizes the membrane. This causes the voltage-gated calcium channels to open and lets calcium flows in. And this calcium influx triggers synaptic vesicles to release their neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. And then neurotransmitter binds to the receptors on target cells, and this causes the positive ions to flow in and cause the depolarization of the postsynaptic neuron. So where is serotonin found? Now, it's found mainly in the brainstem, in clusters of neurons called the raphe nuclei, which branch out throughout the brainstem and the brain to provide serotonin to the rest of the central nervous system. And it's also found in the pineal gland. Now, serotonin is also found in the stomach and intestines because it controls bowel movements. And this is why it's very often that this can cause you to feel nauseous. So now we're going to talk about the receptors of serotonin, and there are 7 different types, and they differ from each other in terms of the distribution, the substances that bind to them, and the effects that they mediate. Now, most of them are G-protein coupled receptors with the exception of one, which is the 5-HT3 receptor, which is a ligand-gated cation channel. Now, it's also important to note that serotonin is removed from the synaptic cleft by a transport protein known as the serotonin transporter, which is abbreviated by a CRT.
Does serotonin play a role in the nervous system? It does. In the bowel function, most of the body's serotonin is found in the GI tract, where it regulates bowel function and movement. If you eat something toxic or irritating, the gut produces serotonin, which increases transit time and causes the effect of nausea in the brain. Also in blood clotting, when serotonin is released, the blood vessels become more narrow. As for bone density, when there are high levels of serotonin, it increases the chances of getting osteoporosis. Are there diseases linked to serotonin? Yes, serotonin deficiency. This leads to anxiety, depression, impulsive behavior, low self-esteem, poor memory, little to no appetite, insomnia, and aggression. Reminder: doctors are still unaware of how serotonin deficiency affects the aforementioned conditions. A study published in 2007 revealed that serotonin deficiency tends to affect men and women differently. How women changed their mood, and for men, it gave them impulsive behavior. I'm going to be talking about the potential causes for serotonin deficiency. The first one is prolonged periods of stress. These can deplete serotonin levels. Our fast-paced, fast food society greatly contributes to these imbalances. Genetic factors, faulty metabolism, and digestive issues can impair absorption and breakdown of our food, which reduces our ability to build serotonin. Neurotransmitters are made in the body from proteins. Also required are certain vitamins and minerals called cofactors. If your nutrition is poor and you do not take enough protein, vitamins, or minerals to build the neurotransmitter, a neurotransmitter imbalance develops. Toxic substances like heavy metals, pesticides, drug use, and some other prescription drugs can cause permanent damage to the nerve cell that makes the serotonin and other neurotransmitter. Certain drugs and substances such as caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, NutraSweet, antidepressants, and some cholesterol-lowering medications deplete serotonin and other neurotransmitter levels. Lack of sunlight also contributes to low serotonin levels. Other potential causes include having fewer serotonin receptors, having serotonin receptors that don't effectively receive serotonin, serotonin breaking down or being absorbed too soon, and low levels of tryptophan, vitamin D, vitamin B6, omega-3, fatty acids, which your body needs in order to produce serotonin. There is no clear way to diagnose serotonin deficiency, but you could use neurotransmitter testing, questionnaires, blood testing, but because of the blood-brain barrier, it's hard to test for serotonin directly, which is why you could test for the proteins and minerals and the cofactors that help create the serotonin. How is it treated? SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are antidepressant medicines that help your body use serotonin more efficiently. They do this by inhibiting serotonin reuptake by the presynaptic receptors in order for serotonin to be more available to bind to the postsynaptic receptors. This results in more serotonin in the synapse between the ends of the neurons, increasing the amount that's available to use. In other words, SSRIs don't create more serotonin, but rather help your body use what it has more effectively. Here's a list of common SSRIs. The most common one is Prozac. Evidence suggests that serotonin levels are not directly associated with depression. Like any type of medication, SSRIs don't work for everyone. In some cases, they can also cause a range of unpleasant side effects. You could use mood induction, which creates happiness naturally by doing something you love, exercise, or change your diet to have more vitamin D, tryptophan, etc. You can also be in bright light. So, not having enough serotonin can have a range of effects on your overall mental and physical health, yet researchers still have many questions about how serotonin works in both the brain and the rest of the body. If you think you have a serotonin deficiency, expect to talk to your doctor and get a better idea of what might be causing your symptoms. There are some drugs that play a role in the levels of serotonin in the body. An example of one of these drugs is ecstasy. When ecstasy binds to the serotonin transporters, more serotonin ends up in the synaptic cleft. This occurs for two reasons. First, ecstasy can prevent the transporters from carrying serotonin back into the terminal. Second, ecstasy can cause the transporters to work in reverse mode. They actually bring serotonin from the terminal into the synaptic space, so more serotonin is present in the synaptic space and more serotonin receptors become activated.